Okay, I am here. I am back. I am coffeeed and ready to go, right? And this will be well worth it. This will be well worth it today. Because I'm going to talk about a real American classic. Like, I'm going to give you guys, and I'm giving you guys some really good research on an absolute American classic. Like, this is all about American fantasy, like how we really came about it. You know what? Let me do this real quick. I think that's light's throwing me off. It's kind of creating, a little more contrast than what I like. Okay, this is a whole lot better, right? Okay, this is a whole lot better. So I'm gonna give you guys a breakdown. What's up, Doomy? Yeah, you're gonna like this one. I really took my time to cook with this one, right? Because this is this is a massively important product of American culture. This is American culture with some help, right? This is American fantasy culture combining with like some Celtic mystical beliefs, combining with like some Japanese animation, right? Like this is all the elements that go to making The Last Unicorn, right? But this is classic right here. This is absolutely classic in so many ways. And I just saw it on, and that's the thing, it's always available, right? No, it's all good, man. Just, your presence here, man. Yeah. Your presence here is good enough, man. Don't worry about it. Again, I'm here for you right now. Okay? That's the whole thing. I'm here for you right now. If you can tune in and listen, I'm going to cook for you right now. I'm going to give you guys like a good, 40 minutes of some in-depth analysis of some stuff, right? Like this is me putting on I'm gonna go do some homework type of scenario when it comes to doing prep, right? So that's what I'm doing. This is me. I'm literally doing my homework. That's my night. I get my prep together and I put this together for you guys, right? And this is well worth it. This is one of those truly when someone says a labor of love or a love of labor. I can't remember how that one goes, but this is whatever that is. Whatever that is, where it's labor and it's love at the same time, this is what this is, right? Because you guys know I love mythology, right? You know I love storytelling. You know I love animation. So this is everything all leaped into one, like everything that I love, right? Mystical animals, sacred spaces, magic, right? The whole nine, right? The whole nine. And this is a story, man, that has a particular place in my heart, right? This came out, remember, the book, now this all comes from a novel, just to kind of give you guys a setting. Remember, I tell you, mythology is nothing without its historical context, like where this stuff came out. Now, the novel itself was written by a Peter S. Bagel, and this is published as The Last Unicorn in 1968. And this is during a major transformation in fantasy literature, and it really was. And this book was so unique because it helps understand the fantasy world look like at this time. It's a very important view of the early establishments of what would be our fantasy culture and world. They starts here. I mean, it didn't literally start here, but this is the time period when that was going on. Where as a culture, we were developing what we thought the fantasy world did. Because this is again fresh off of Lord of the Rings, which was the 60s when the films got made on that, right? So the taste for fantasy was high. We were riding high on fantasy, right? So this already kind of had us mad prep for ancient kingdoms, the idea of epic wars, dark lords in this fantasy world, heroic quests. This is when we're really we're heavy on heroic quests, right? We love heroic quests, all this stuff, right? Vast mythological stories. So we're already prepped for it. So by the time this rolls around, the audience is already oh yeah, about time, right? And that's what it felt like. This is how it really felt. So this is kind of a lot of people were trying to emulate what Tolkien had done at that period of time. Peter Bagel comes at it with a different angle, right? Instead of talking about the armies and the empire, the royal part of it, he focused on subtle things, right? Really subtle. This story is so subtle, right? You have to close your eyes and listen to the story because this is a story about some deep concepts. This is loneliness. This is identity. It has questions about love, about emotion. It heavily themes like, mortality, what it actually means to be human, what it means to be divine. This is about also the loss of wonder, like magic and wonder existing in the world, right? So this one is taking on like some of the heaviest concepts. It's like Lord of the Rings, but all the sad parts, but sad, like entirely sad. Like imagine after Lord of the Rings and later, and then it's like everybody forgot all this stuff happened, right? That's what it feels like. Where we're losing it. Whereas like Lord of the Rings, we're in it. We're in the thrill of the genre, right? And even for Frodo, man, they talked about some things were forgotten that should not have been forgotten. All that, right? This is kind of on that path where the stuff that should have been forgotten has really been forgotten. This is like after. And this is a different question. This isn't like, how do we save the world? Because there's not an existential threat to the world. It doesn't exist here, right? It's not an existential threat here at the time. This is how do we keep the magic from the world from disappearing? That's the threat that this story actually reckons with. So this novel, man, I'm telling you guys, it's far more intimate. This is far more intimate. It's far more philosophical than most of the fantasy eras, films that you would see in this era. Like, it's way, way, way out there in that regard. And we get to see like some very interesting components, some very interesting personalities. Like, we have some interesting things. Like, I'm going to break into it here, but like, I really want you guys to know, I'm going to go through all the various components of what actually makes this story kind of what it is, right? And it's not because it's not just like, you can enjoy this on a surface level, right? Like, you really, really can. Like I would think that children would be able, like, you could throw this on with your kids and everybody have a good time, right? On some level, if you're into storytelling, if you're into animation, like, it has all those elements. It's built around a really, really good world. It just happens to have some heavy ass themes, right? This is like the fantasy world, like, depressed, right? It's that story, but it's done in such a way that it's more appreciated. It's very philosophical. So this is the time setting that, this is going in. This is like, the late 60s, right? His writing is constantly kind of shifting between, like, for the author, it's kind of fairy tale, the story itself, it's kind of comedy, it's kind of tragedy, it's myth, and it's philosophy. Like, he's throwing out a lot of things. Very consciously is he throwing out a lot of concepts. He's heavily pulling on like themes of regret and like, oh, it's too late for me. Like, all that stuff exists. And everybody on some level is like, you're worthy of criticism. Everybody's actions on some level, you guys are worthy of some criticism here. But I don't think it runs away from that. This is kind of this melancholy atmosphere that is like the trademark of this novel. Like, I mean, seriously, this novel here, it is emotionally a lot of weightlifting, right? If you just kind of get story structure, if you kind of get like what it is, because you look at the heroes and everybody's kind of broken, right? Like, even the heroes, and I'll get into it. And the unicorn herself is, for all that she is, she isn't like wise. I mean, she is wise. She's wise, but yet she's very much ignorant at the same time. Like, there is she goes on a journey about loss. That's really what this is. Like, not so different than Frodo. You know how, like, Frodo starts off one way, by the end of the whole novel, Frodo is a whole different kind of person. Like, that's what this scenario is, right? Like, she's a whole different unicorn after all this is done. She is changed by this experience, right? And I'm telling you, this is like 120 minutes or something like that. Like, on this journey, you see her change. So this is brilliant writing. The idea is that it is suddenly like it's just a different look at that same fantasy world. the way that he puts it together, the angles that it takes, it just kind of brings it all together. And I still think this is one of the best classics. Like for animation, like I don't know if you guys really have tracked American animation. Like that was a thing for a long time. Like, and I don't mean that Disney nonsense. Like I guess we have animation now, but there was an era where our animation was like, I feel like the golden era was when like heavy metal was on, like, you know, around this time when, you know, this 80s, we had some really good animation. And this is in the company again, this is Bass Rankin. And I've talked about Bass Rankin a lot. Like Bass Rankin is, that's the dude, man. Bass Rankin as a company, as a production company, like they have portrayed much of our cultural mythology. And I've talked about Bass Rankin because Bass Rankin, let me pull up my browser real quick, because Bass Rankin, as a production company has portrayed like a significant foundation of our cultural mythology as Americans. And I'm telling you that it has. And I don't know if this is insidious or not. I don't know if it's insidious that Bass Rankin has been a part of telling every freaking story that matters to Americans. And I mean like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, like classic, cemented, right? Frosty Snowman, Santa Claus, Year Without Santa Claus, right? The original Hobbit, The Return of the King, right? The Flight of the Dragons. It's that all the epics were touched by Bass Rankin. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm simply saying that we need to acknowledge like who Bass Rankin is, right? We actually need to acknowledge who Bass Rankin is. So I'm going to pull this up on the screen. So this will make it some easier conversation. If I can figure out what screen it is. Desktop. What are you? Three. No. 4. No, that's 4. Okay, now we're getting there. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay, it has to be desktop 2. It has to be 2. Well, god damn it if it's not. Wow. That is a kick in the head right there. Okay. So you take a look at this screen right here, and I'm telling you, if you guys will recognize this stuff, Bass Rankin has really been out there, like just telling the tale of American culture. This company was really inside of us. For my entire generation. Like no joke, man. Most of the stuff that we watch, Arthur stories, biblical stories, like I don't know where they came from. I don't know how they got started, but just incredible storytelling. So this is who is really telling the story. Like they really get into working on American culture, and I feel like this is all before we got to Disney. Okay, so what was Bass Rankin's absolute heyday in terms of production company? I gotta figure this out because this matters. Again, I'm Generation X, so I know I was well within that domain. It's golden era from 1964 to 1982. Okay. And so this overlaps exactly with Generation X, right? Their heyday was Generation X, right? And this is an important thing. Like this is an important thing. Like so Bass Rankin as a company, their whole entire like way of being, like their entire company status overlapped culturally with Generation X. It's almost as if they were built to program us specifically. Like they took on shaping the biggest cultural stories, especially with fantasy stuff. I gotta keep this graphic up on the screen. Let me pull this one up here, right? Let me pull this one up here. Where's my Discord folder? So I hadn't really thought about it in this way of how connected as a generation we were with Bass Rankin. I really had not thought about it in this light. But if we really pull it up now, they overlap. Like, this is the overlapping of all of our fantasy stories, 1964 to 1982. If we go year by year, they had The Hobbit with them. Now, okay. This is telling me a lot about the company that made him. I'm just saying, if you guys don't know about Bass Rankin, like I said, you can go back and you can just pick, like, look at the fantasy stuff they got. The Hobbit, The Flight of the Dragons, like that was our definitive. That was our definitive. Like, we had Disney, but Disney wasn't really, like, man, Disney did some stuff too. I'm trying to think, man, like Disney, because Disney had like the Black Cauldron. Disney had some bangers too. I have to throw it in there, but like, who else was really making stuff for fantasy culture? What other companies? Like, I know Disney in that period of time had Black Cauldron. Like, what else was going on in fantasy culture? Okay, so Disney, so it's called Disney's Dark Era, right? And I'm telling you, I love Disney's Dark Era. I love Disney's Dark Era, right? Like the Dragon Slayer, everything here. You notice, like, the first thing I brought up was the Black Cauldron, right? Like, that's one of my favorites from childhood. Like, that's deep. It gets a little kiddie, but like, if you go back and watch this, and then you watch later, like Dungeons and Dragons, like the initial Dungeons and Dragons games, right? Like, man, what was the name of that main one, man? It wasn't Dungeons and Dragons, but it was like, the Castle Siege dude, man. Like, at any rate, man, like, you would go in there and you were just gonna die, but you would take it on the castle, and it was always based around night. So a lot of it comes from right here, right? So this is that era. So like, they're giving it to the Black Cauldron, like I said. Return to Oz also was there. And this is when, like, TSR and Dungeons and Dragons was really getting foundation, right? So you also had, Dungeons and Dragons would jump off, Dragonlance would jump off, Forgotten Realms would jump off. I read all those. Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms are deep lore, and Greyhawk, which I didn't get into. So this is where, like, an entire generation, we're all getting all of our myths about dragons, about elves, about wizards, about quests, about magic systems, like all the stuff that you see going on in Stranger Things when these cats are sitting at the table. That's stuff that we were doing. Like, we were heavily invested culturally in fantasy realm. Like, it was a whole different thing. And this is where the foundations of fantasy was coming from. Also, of course, my man Conan was also on the scene. So, like, Conan the Barbarian, which of course was it. Conan the Destroyer. You would have the Dark Crystal, the Labyrinth. So, like this era, again, X, we were deep in fantasy culture. Like, we were just dripping in fantasy culture right now. And these would be this how we would start interpreting the story. So The Last Unicorn, man, it sits right there. It sits right there culturally, as relevant as anything else, right? Like, absolutely. This is just an extremely relevant cultural, right, expression. And again, to me, I always like keeping our animation on the scene, because at the time, like I said, Disney was carrying it. Like, here's the thing, like, right, man, Dark Disney, I'm actually nostalgic for Dark Disney. Like, when did Dark Disney end? Like, expand on the Dark Disney era. Because I didn't ever think about Disney as having its dark era, but Disney absolutely had a dark era, and it was, the storytelling was off the hook. Okay, so again, this is 1979 to 1988, and I'm assuming, like, okay, the company was losing cultural revival, right? The Black Hole, man, like, the Black Hole came out, and I'm telling you guys, this was a terrible movie. It really was a terrible movie. Like, I watched it and consumed it, and I love it. You know how it is? I'm a kid when this comes out. Like, Black Hole comes out, I'm like 7. So, you know, for me, I'm like, yeah, this is it. Like, I didn't care. It was a raggedy, like, it wasn't any good. And the story wasn't really great. But, we didn't really care, man. I'm telling you. In 1979, we really didn't care if your story was good or nothing in any way, shape, or form. The fact that you were doing it, that you were going up into space, I'm going to sit down and watch that space movie, right? So that's what was going on. Like, this was kind of weird. And I think it flopped, man. I think it was, like, culturally a flop. The Watcher in the Woods, which I don't remember that. Dragon Slayer, which, like, man. This was it right here. Like, Dragon Slayer, you know, it put dragons in just, dragons are more just, dragons are real, right? Like, we ain't tripping. There's a dragon right over there. Look, watch out, there's a dragon over here. They're not all mythical, right? They're intelligent. They are intelligent, but they're basically like douches, right? Like, they're just multiplying, and it's a problem. And they can't be killed. They're just really hard to kill. So this is kind of where a lot of like the myth is really percolating. So a lot of our foundation for fantasy stuff that you're seeing right now, just like they were showing you Game of Thrones, this is when all this stuff was really, really growing. So Gen X stuff, like, we're heavily consuming this stuff. This is foundational. Like, this is where the foundational for all this stuff is getting formed. Oh man, Something Wicked This Way Comes. Man, that was off the hook. Like, film as well. This is Ray Bradbury. Like, this is also great culturally. Like, and it deals with some different things, but it's kind of a magical theme. And then, like I said, the Black Cauldron, 1985. You get the Horn King. You get necromancy. You get undead warriors, dark magic. So this is it. Return to Oz will come out soon. So we're prime, okay? So we're slathering up on this stuff by the time The Last Unicorn gets here. And we're ready for it, man. We're ready for everything that The Last Unicorn has to offer, right? Like, all of it. All the archetypes, the new villains, talking to a divine being, like, culturally, what that means. Like, what culturally we're saying right now. What we're afraid of losing, right? What's our cultural identity? And all this stuff is wrapped into it. Now, and here's the thing. And again, I gotta give you guys like some cultural like grounding. Okay, that's what I gotta ground it culturally. The 60s, like, when this stuff is percolating, like, again, we gotta talk about who is actually doing it. Because I was children when this stuff came out, it means we weren't the ones who were making this stuff. And I'm gonna tell you guys who it was. It was in boomers, right? And like, you guys know I talk a lot of trash about boomers, but they were the ones that were making all the stuff that was foundational for my childhood. And we love this stuff. Like, they were making this beautiful, amazing cultural tradition that the boomers were passing down to us, right? That we would manifest. They would dream up. Now, how these guys were dreaming up all this fantasy stuff, well, we're not going to talk about their drug use, okay? We're not going to talk about the type of drugs that was going on. In fact, you know what? Okay. So during this period of time, the people who are creating all this fiction are basically our parents' generation. So these are all boomers who were doing this. And what kind of drugs were on the scene during this period of time? What were they doing? What was that generation doing in terms of drugs at this period of time? Not that this matters at all, right? Not that this matters at all, like what was going on. And I don't know what they were doing, okay? Late 70s, everybody's just psychedelics. Okay, let's see. Okay, silent generation. Okay, counterculture. So they were counterculture, and it's not naming people. Obviously, it's talking about when they were born. They all are boomers, right? Luke is born in 44. Jim Henson, 36. Peter Beagle, born 1939. Right? George R. Martin, born in 1948. So they're all like in that cluster, right? They are generationally clustered together, right? So these are 100% boomers. Now, what were the drugs that were jumping off? And this is the counterculture period, right? This is after the Vietnam War. This is civil rights movement. This is counterculture movement. Like, this is who they are. This is who they are, right? So who are they? What was going on? There's a lot of weed going on. There's a lot of marijuana. There's a lot of LSD. This was the age, like hashish, mescaline, like especially among artists, musicians, writers, college students. I'm not saying that any of these people had anything to do with it, but I'm saying somebody in the production chain did. Somebody at some level, either a writer or editor, somebody in that, an artist, somebody, this is a part of their culture as well, right? We take the sum of every part of the culture, and it's like, this is the culture that produces work. I'm not saying that they were all high. I'm just saying this was the 60s, and we know the kind of drugs that were going on. So it's not surprising that those boomers would make something like this, right? And we ate it up. As Gen X, the children of them, we ate up this culture that they were producing. We love Jim Henson's work. We love all this stuff. Were they getting high all the time? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe that would explain how you come up with the Muppets, because that didn't just come out of nowhere, right? That didn't just come out of nowhere. But anyway, this is what was going on at that period of time, right? At that time, this is what's going on. So all the Tolkien stuff, and then again, this is like Joseph Campbell, who also had a heavy influence on what would be Star Wars. So we got to look at all the stuff leading into it, and not that Gen X was bad. I'm simply saying, watch the other stuff that was going on in this era. Like when I was a kid, we were also telling movies about Scarface and cocaine trafficking. Who was that about? Same people, right? I'm just saying, we know what they produce in terms of movie. I'm just saying Miami Vice was a reality, right? Those two things go together if we're going to understand who the people who developed all these stories were. Beautiful stories that shaped my childhood. Everything that I watched, they knew exactly what we wanted. They were able to not only to market to us, but give us damn stuff that we want. And we love, all this stuff, right? Every part of it. Because we get all these archetypes that we see in this film, right? So we get the unicorn himself. And then we get another look at a wizard. And this is in Smendrick, and I'm going to talk about him. Then we get Molly. And then we get this force that is the Red Bull. Then King Hagar. Like each one of them kind of represents something in this mythic order, right? So this film comes out in 1982. It's all about identity. It's all about memory. It's all about impermanence, like that you will go away and hanging on. It's about captivity. It's about corruption. It is a story about self-discovery in a lot of ways, and it is foundational to other stories that we would tell about myths. Okay, so this is where I'm hanging out. So the story that goes down here is a simple story. Okay, the unicorn learns that she may be the last unicorn alive. That everyone else that she loved has disappeared. Right? They are just gone. And that if she leaves, she has to leave this enchanted forest to discover what happened. Okay, and I'm like, how did you not notice that every other unicorn was gone? Like, at what point would you notice that you haven't seen? Man, I haven't seen a human in like a week. Wouldn't that kind of you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like, how do you not see another unicorn? Like, how long did this go on? When was the last time you saw a unicorn and you weren't even worried about it and you're a unicorn yourself? Okay. But, be that as it may, now she must venture forth into the world, right? Because she's got to figure out, like, what's going on. Where are all the other unicorns? Where have they absconded to, right? So that means that obviously she has to leave the sanctity of her home, right? And that's where it gets, the enchanted forest is also it's safety and it's protection, right? It's all those things on that level. It's everything. And then this journey leads her into these various manifestations of humanity. You get Smendrick, the wizard, right? The magician. You get Molly Grew, who is a woman who would have a lot she could see she has divine powers as well, or magical abilities as well. Then the king, who's the cause of this, and the Red Bull, right? And all this is for her to discover that King Hagar is the one who's driving all of these, all the other unicorns into the sea. So he's got all the unicorns hemmed up, and it's a weird story. Like, it is a weird story because they're not celebrating beauty. Like, it's some deeper questions about possession, about ownership. And visually, it is among some of the best American storytelling. We use it's American storytelling. We've got a lot of European folklore worked into the fiber of it. with some Japanese animation technique. So it really occupies like just a completely different space for us. I'm going to bring up some images of this, just so you can see some more images of the film. Obviously, I wanted my graphics to talk about, each of my points, but nothing substitutes like just looking at the artwork that is this film, right? Like this is the look that it had, which I think right now. All right, wait, is that not on anymore? Like this is, damn it. This is the look that this work had, which still holds weight right now, right? Like if you go watch this film, you're not gonna feel disappointed when you get into actually watching what the artwork of it is. Like it's a beautifully done film. Like you can see it's this, I mean, and that's what I'm saying, culturally, like what it represents is this animation connection. Like the company is Top Craft, and they're like highly respected in terms of like animation studios at the time. Like they're up there with like some of the other top Japanese companies that I cannot pronounce. So what you get is this kind of next level in art creation, right? You have softer backgrounds. You have like a vibrance to it. You have more natural environments. The emotions of the characters are a lot stronger than what we're used to at that time. You get these very dreamlike atmosphere. It's just very, very nuanced. It's very nuanced, like very subtle mixture of like very beautiful and very sad. Like they absolutely tap into it. And that's what kind of gives this film like this whole different vibe. It like I said, you could watch it with kids, but this is not a kid's story. Like you are engaging with like fine art, right? This is absolutely fine art. This is absolutely fine art when you're talking about like this level of animation meeting this level of storytelling, right? So it's absolutely that. Let me see. I want to pull this up for you guys too. Who was the cast of this film? Who were the voices? And this is kind of groundbreaking because it's a lot of like really good, powerful actors in this, right? So again, I think too. So now we're talking about like, I mean, this is a great list here. Like, look what we're talking about here. We're talking Mia Farrow, right, as the unicorn. We're talking Alan Arkin, Tammy Grimes, Jeff Bridges, Christopher Lee, right? Angela Lansbury, Robert Klein. I don't know who that is. I don't know who the rest of these guys are, but this is a really incredible class. Like Jeff Bridges would win the Oscar. Alan Arkin would later on win an Oscar. Christopher Lee, this is Saruman. This is Dracula. This is Count Dooku. That's who he is. Angela Lansbury, of course, we would know her later on from Murder, She Wrote. And of course, Mia Farrow, we would know from Rosemary's Baby, right? It's like classic. So this is like classic like acting right here. And Christopher Lee, like we already know Christopher Lee, like the amazing, the incomparable Christopher Lee. I gotta bow down, right? This dude is also known from Lord of the Rings work, right? And he's also Count Dooku. Like you're also Count Dooku. You're two of my personally most hated villains of all time, all wrapped up. So like these are the guys who like for Gen X, they were all in our noodles, man. They were all like programming us to whatever minions they wanted us to turn into. These are the guys who were doing it, right? And they were doing it by getting us hooked on this eye candy. Stuff like this. This is where they got us at. So this is where it comes at. And again, I just feel like we're getting culturally like, this is American landscape storytelling. This is a lot of like European cultural folklore. And then we have Japanese animation, like helping them bring this together. So it's really doing a good job of bridging worlds, right? So we get like, we get influence, like think all the stuff. There's unicorn legends in there. There's medieval folklore. There's enchanted forest stories, which we'll see a lot of. Like in Tolkien, they did enchanted forest stories as well. Wandering magician, which goes into like Odin mythology, right? Like, and I'll break down, like I'm gonna have to break down Dragonlance as well. Like I'm gonna start on the breakdown of that now. Cursed Kings, this whole idea, and then you get like just American fantasy literature, right? Like this is character-driven stories, this is psychological themes, regret, like sadness, despair. Like that's very American, like contribution, literary. Like in that literary fantasy, we really helped develop literary fantasy that would go around the world. And then some of the philosophical connections. So that with like Japanese atmosphere, emotional subtlety and nuances that we hadn't seen. Nature seen as a living force that they represented. Because you see, like, you get those kind of like wind-blown scenes. Like if you watch a lot of Japanese anime back from this period of time, you'll see that on a big level. Like you'll see a lot of that, like that sweeping backgrounds, this whole idea of like the melancholy scene. It's absolutely there. So this is what you get. So you're combining all three, and I think it works because it works. Like it pulls together, right? So we're able to pull this incredible story together. And like I said, this is an older story, but like the way it hit, it just has it enduring, like quietly enduring. And the last unicorn, again, she's an immortal, so she is timeless, right? So that's what we get from her. She's this timeless creature, and she's just out of touch. So she can't believe that the other unicorns don't exist. But this is true, right? This is true. Like, and she's gonna find out. There's a very dark time. Am I really the last of them? And this starts to haunt her and forces her outside of her safety. Okay. And lo and behold, you're last. You get out to the human world, and you are the last unicorn, and you're hunted. And oddly enough, for a divine creature, she has no ability to fight back. Right? Like you're easily taken. They catch you while she's asleep. But the world doesn't believe in magic anymore. So they take her and they make her part of this slide. This, like they put everything in a circus. Everything got, if there was anything wrong with you, you were going to be in the circus. If somebody caught you, if the circus hit you, if you got a big head and the circus happened to be around, you probably get ready to be in a circus. That's just what happened. So they put her in this fantasy circus where like the people just can't see magical things anymore. So they it's weird that they put a fake horn on her because people can't see the real horn that's actually on her, right? So this is what it is. This is what it is. So she's there, and it's just hell. Like you're on Earth, right? And then like she meets Smedric, who is this wizard, and I'm going to talk about Smedric as well. But Smedric, do I have his card? Okay, so she meets Smedric. He's this wandering magician, and his magic is unpredictable at best, right? And he's trying to, because he's trying to turn her, to save her, he turns her into a human form. And I don't know if he fully calculated like what that actually meant, right? I could tell he didn't, right? Smedric, right? He transforms her into a human to hide her, because everyone's like, oh my god, there's a unicorn and people are already hunting her. You can just imagine what it means. So he turns her into a human, which is the worst thing, because now she has to, it's the worst thing, and then it turns out to be this like kind of incredible blessing, right? It's a mixed bag. How about we call it that? It's a mixed bag. Because now, you're safe for now, but now you have to endure being a human. Something's bad and something's good, right? And in this, you also meet Molly Group. And you can get Molly herself was never magical, right? And she's pissed off that she wasted her whole youth, and now the unicorn shows up. So she kind of represents a certain level of like, I'm pissed. Like she sees instant joy, but now she's angry because she's like, why didn't you come when I was young? Why not would you come when I still believe? And this is one of the most powerful scenes in the story, because she really represents humanity. Like she still believed in magic, but then she grew older and she lost her faith. It's like, why didn't you just show up when I was young? If you're real the entire time, I had faith all this time, why didn't you show up? Like part of this is on you. And so there's this whole like exchange, and we really feel her. And I want to say, man, is that like Cloris Leachman? That might be Cloris Leachman, I think, because like she sounds kind of raspy while she's doing this. I haven't confirmed that. So this is kind of where the story, like how magic, how youth, how all this stuff is hitting in, and like then you have like the king, right? And this is kind of where it gets a little bit deeper. Like it gets deeper because like the unicorn herself, she goes through like a big phase, right? She has to go through like the cost of being human. I kind of touched on that. Like she wants truth. So she ends up following this quest, right? And personally, she doesn't desire power. She doesn't desire any revenge. She doesn't desire glory. She only wants truth. She wants to know what is really going on in the world. And among like fantasy character heroes, that kind of makes her unique. That she's kind of pure in her format. She's like this modern fairy, you know, or fantasy kind of like Artemis type, where their actions are a lot more pure. That's what she represents. She is the cost of humanity, right? Like this is who she is. She's the cost of humanity. Like this is an actual rendition of her, right? Just so you can see who we're actually talking about, right? Like this is actually what she looks like. This is what she gets turned into, right? So in this form, of course, they're able to hide her, but then, you know, the next aspect brings her in touch with the king, right? So in this form, though, she's going to experience for the first time fear, right? She's going to experience loss in a whole different way. She's going to experience regret because these are conditions of being humans and knowing that we're going to die, right? So we have to deal or contend with that part of our aspect. But she's also going to get love at a human level as well. So she experiences all those things. And then there's the king, right? And of course, there's King Hagar. And this is the king. This is like the broken man. That's really what he is. He doesn't start off, or even like if you were listening to his story, why are you not? If you were listening to his story, he's not supposed to be a villain, right? He's supposed to be the good guy, but he becomes empty on the inside. Like this is the classic. We're gonna start to see more of these listless kings. Even in Conan's story, at this time, you're seeing a lot of listless kings. Like, I'm sitting on the throne, but my God, it's so terrible and bored. That's kind of where they're at with this. And he's there. He cannot gain any happiness from anything. He has the entire world, but nothing brings him joy except looking at unicorns. That's what brings him joy. He gets him so much. He's so happy. He's so happy out of this that that's all he wants. You can't buy him anything for Christmas because all he wants is some more unicorns. And I want all of them. I don't just want one. One's not enough. I need every single unicorn because they're all so beautiful and they make me feel bad because woe is goddamn me, right? Like, woe is me. Cry me a river, right? Like, he is the king of boo-hooing it up, right? This is King Hagar. He is the most despicable and fascinating villain of all times, right? He doesn't hate the unicorns. He hungers for what is within them, like to see them, the majesty of them, like the wonder of them. That's all that can even stir him. He's in depression. It's his existential despair. That is what he is. That is what he's contending with. So this is why he ends up getting the bull, and the bull itself is a force. Like the bull itself is a force, and it draws on. Now you got to understand, the bull also draws on some older belief systems, right? This bull, when we talk like the Mesopotamian bull of heaven, the bull can represent destructive chaos, cataclysm, as it were, right? This is fear. It is inevitability. All those things wrapped in one. The bull, if the bull cometh, it is eventually going to get it done, right? That is the inevitability of the bull. And we've got to remember, this bull becomes a force. Like in myth, this bull itself becomes absolutely a force. It can't be slain. It can't be destroyed. It cannot be bargained with. It's just going to come. Everybody knows you can't argue with the bull. You can't, hey, come on. So let's sit down and talk about this. That's never going to happen with the bull, right? That's not his nature, right? We get it. That's not your nature. He doesn't want to sit down with you and have a conversation about it, okay? So this is what we're dealing with here. So he represents this force, and he rounds up all the bulls. He's kind of like the Black Riders. It's like Fenrir, like a force of absolute destruction is the Red Bull. And like the Red Bull, man, the Red Bull, I mean, this was just absolutely fearsome on the screen. Like, I'm just saying, the artwork with this dude, like, this is what I'm talking about here, man. Like, this is what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about the artwork that went along with this, like, that's what I'm saying, man. Again, man, you know, I'm like 11 when this is out, man. This is amazing to me at the time, right? This is it right here, right? So this is what I'm saying, man. Like, this is how crazy good the artwork was. The storytelling was amazing. You see how big, the bull is, how fearsome this character looked. Like, you know, I gotta give it up to these hippie boomers, right? Because they were able to put it down. So the bull is his secret that's tied to terrifying. Again, this man who was once a great king, he is using this bull to terrify these divine creatures. He's massive. He's relentless. He's basically unstoppable. He doesn't talk. It gets after you, man. It starts bullying you around. Like, what do bulls do? They bully you. That's why they call it that. They call you bullying, because this is exactly what a bull's going to do. It's going to punk you, right? It can be punking. It just goes after, and it just spent centuries hunting down all the unicorns. Wherever it finds them, it drove them all. It's wherever you were, you got driven over here. And after a while, like when you realized you couldn't get around it, a lot of them just gave up. They just gave up. All right, well, damn. And I'm down here with all the other unicorns. So we're all in the ocean just bobbing around, because this bull is tripping. Like, this bull is seriously tripping. So that's the motivation for changing her from this unicorn into this princess, right? This is what Smedrick does. But now she gets it. Now she gets everything. And now she gets everything, right? What is her name, right? Here's her human form, right? Right. This is her human form. This is what they turned her into, right? So, I mean, and if you look at this, like, man, see, this is some stuff right here, man. Well, look at this and go back and watch, like, early Voltron. Like, look at the eyes, look at the artwork on this, and go back and watch that early Voltron, and you'll see that connection in the art styles, right? Like, so again, this is what we're absorbing, at least my generation, as we're coming up. So this is her transformation, and this will be the character that we would identify with. And here, all of a sudden, she has vulnerability, right? Right. Amalthea, right? That's the name. Her name is Amalthea. So she kind of forgets in this form what it means to be a unicorn. She's experiencing this human form. The longer she remains human, the more a danger she is that she's going to lose herself completely. But they have to keep her hidden. So this creates this conflict. The unicorn came to save her people, but she may lose her own identity in the process. This is what's at risk for her. And then, of course, there's the prince, and the prince is all up on that, right? The prince is all up on that, man, right? Prince Lear is absolutely having it, right? And he, again, like, and he's kind of a righteous dude, though. Like, that's the thing. He's not a not righteous dude, right? That's the whole thing. He actually is sincere about her, and she's confronted with this choices that in her existence she hadn't had before. So this is one of the earliest questions we would have about, like, immortality. And it's one of those things that, like, Aragon and whatever elfie girlfriend chick that he was messing with, right? What they would go through. Like, do you sacrifice immortality for this love, right? And the same thing with Talos in the Dragonland. So they were all working with some themes of, like, love and the cost of your immortality, right? And is it even worth it? I mean, you're a unicorn. You're going to be this forever. And we need more unicorns. So this is where the story really heats up, is that the unicorn itself is a symbol. It is wonder in the world. It's beauty. It's hope. And the bull represents inevitability. And, like, yeah, you're going to get there. And forces that drive magic out of the world, that make the world suck. So finally, all the unicorns get released. This is the end of the story. King Hagar's, power collapses, and this is where the story matters. It's like, at the end of it, the unicorn is about saving magic itself. It's not about anything else. It is about literally saving magic and keeping magic going in the world. She experiences mankind, right? She experiences what it's like to actually be a human. And it's because of that sacrifice that we all get to continue to exist. That's the sacrifice that she made for us, right? So this is kind of how the story culminates. She knows what love is. She knows loss now. She is complete. And it forces us to talk again about, like, what if magic ever leaves the world, and just the importance of actually having belief. Like, the world would be different, not because it would be destroyed, not because it's defeated, but because you just stop seeing it. We stop looking for it. So it's very much symbolic of all those things culturally, all wrapped up in, like I said, like the human world, like great artwork, great storytelling, some of the best, creatures, actors of our time, giving us just a lot of character, a lot of like depth, a lot of emotional content as we went to the story. And again, this whole thing does really leverage, what we would call classic kind of unicorn mythology. Let me get to my last slide here, because I do have one more. I was going to talk about this too. Okay. So, you see again, this is like the Smedric, like what he represents. Like Smedric, again, this is like the failed wizard. And his role in the story is kind of ideal, right? He's actually very ideal, because usually we see the idea of the wizard being these powerful, like Gandalf's. He kind of represents something that's different than that in what he gives us. Hang on, why are you logging me out here? I'm still on here. All right. So that's what Smedric is. And how we feel about him in the story overall, I feel like he was a good conduit. He was stumbling, he was kind of bumbling, but he kept her on path, and it was his decision that ultimately kept her around. Overall, like the myths that they're drawing off of this, you're getting a lot of medieval Europe, a lot of myths coming out of Scotland, Chinese mythology, Near East mythology of horned creatures, just like the unicorn here. So this is staying within the context of all that. We get the wisdom, we get the poetry, we get everything, right? This is the story that's ultimately represented by most of these. Like, this is symbolic culture. You're going back in time when things were more magical, and can we retain that part of it? So I highly recommend, man. I would highly recommend, go check it out. It's great artwork. I think it translates very well, and I think it's one of the more important. Like, it's a very important point for American culture, at least in terms of our anime storytelling, or animation storytelling, I should say, and also just like in general, like how we were developing our fantasy culture. What would be the foundational steps? This is a big part of it right here. So I'll be back. I'm probably going to do the breakout for you maybe later today. If not, I'll be prepping for tomorrow. But as always, hit that like and subscribe. Give me your thoughts, questions, anything you want to follow up on. We'll kind of have it in deeper thoughts.